Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk7332. Cryptopunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go. Hey everyone, we're back today with another esteemed guest. He's the owner of Punk7332, a fort Atty with a hidden smile, front beard, knitted cap, and cool classic shades. He's an avid NFT collector, NFT developer, general enthusiast of Web3. Please welcome Cobble to the show. Cobble, welcome, mate. How are you?
Thank you. I'm doing well. It's fun to be here.
No, great to sort of have you, mate. And where are you calling in from today?
I am from Sweden. One of few punks from Sweden, as far as I know. I haven't found anyone else that has said they're from Sweden, at least. But yeah, that's where I'm from.
You should jump on Punk's Club and sort of see if anybody's.
And I see nobody there. The closest one is like from Siberia or something.
Amazing. Just to dive into it a little bit, what's Sweden like for NFTs at the moment?
Well, I've met very few people who say that they're doing NFTs. I don't know if all the people doing NFTs here are hiding from me or something, but most of the ones I've found are like more business oriented from NFTs. So there are a few crypto projects, or actually quite a few crypto projects based in Sweden, some of which are dealing with NFTs. My neighbor Alice is one of the big ones that's doing like a play to earn game. But I've never met any one of them, and I've been to like a pitch meeting where it was another crypto game that was very early in development. So I've met like 2 people in total. But that also means that whenever there's a speaking gig that involves somebody that needs NFTs in Sweden, I'm usually at the top of the list. Yeah, so that's fun.
Awesome. And just out of curiosity, why did you choose the name Cobble?
That is a great question, and the answer is that I was 10 years old and started a YouTube channel where I was going to upload Minecraft videos, and I called it Cobble Generator because that's a thing in Minecraft where you can get infinite resources. And then as time went on, I liked the Cobble part and not the generator part, so I kept that, and it stuck.
Amazing. So, mate, really great to have you on the show. Maybe we could just start off with a general question around, who are you? A bit of background about your sort of journey and how you got into sort of NFTs.
Yeah, that is interesting. One of the big things about me that kind of differentiates me from other people is that I'm very young compared to most people in the space. I was 18 when I started, and I'm 20 now. So I was still in Sweden's version of high school, studying programming, and I listened to a podcast called My First Million, and they mentioned NFTs in one of the episodes, and I was like, that sounds cool. And I was like very entrepreneurial, so I wanted to try every single thing that I heard about. And so I checked out NFTs. I was like, okay, this is pretty fucking cool. And I found a project called Nifty Dudes. Don't know if you've heard about them. They were like...
No.
It was basically what was pretty cool about them is that you got to remix your own NFT before you actually minted it. So a lot of NFTs, they're random upon mint. This is actually a bunch of random traits, but you get to choose which ones you want. So you could actually build your NFT. So I built like 2 of those for what I thought was a bunch of money, which was 0.15 ETH each. So that was like all the money I'd saved up from my work, basically.
I've just got them on screen now. Are they like these little pixelated dudes with the full bodies? Is
Yeah,
that them?
exactly.
Okay.
And they had like some really cool things about them. So every time somebody used a trait, it could like get discarded from the pool, so it could be very exclusive. And that happened with one of the ones I did. So I was the only one that had the golden mohawk, I think. And it was like very early too, so that I could sell that for like 5 ETH. I didn't though, which was stupid because they went down pretty quickly. But I still turned that like 0.3 ETH into like 2 or 3 ETH or something, with which I also bought mooncats when they were like discovered. So I minted like 3 or 4 mooncats, and they also popped off quite quickly. So I like went from what I thought was a lot of money to a lot more money. And I was like, holy shit, what do I do with this? And since I was a programmer, the kind of obvious thing was like, oh, I'm going to make my own collection. So I started work on my own collection called Bitbots, which was released like the same week Bored Ape Yacht Club was. And they were like, you could like forge the bots. So you burn 2, turn them into 1, choose which parts of the bots you want to keep, which became big like 6 months later with, Mason the Goats and Dogs Unchained. And they were like, oh, which was first? But I was like, I was actually first, but I had no voice back then, so nobody knew. So they didn't sell much at all, and it was very hard to keep traction for something that like nobody owned. But I learned so much from that I could then like help programming work on other projects. And now today I'm working with a bunch of cool people and experimenting a lot with the space. So I like to see myself as a developer, but more of an experimenter, like trying to see where the space is going and find out what the future is going to look like with the tech we have.
Mate, that's amazing. I always had the idea in my head that you were some middle-aged old dude. I think you just seemed
Thanks.
really mature on Twitter, and obviously very intelligent. But mate, just to help me sort of understand as well, like, what was your thinking around doing sort of a computer science course back then? Like, is it something that you were always passionate about, or?
Yeah, I've always been very interested in computers. I have like a whole talk for this that I give for school children. So excuse me if this sounds scripted, but like I was a big gamer back in the day, and I always thought that like, oh, this game would be better if I made it. So I always like modded games and stuff when I was very young, and wanted to make my own games. So I learned like basic programming through that. And then some web development and stuff. So then when I chose to study like basic programming, because it's like the high school courses, so it's not a computer science degree in any way, shape, or form. I like had a great foundation for that, so I learned very quickly and became pretty proficient in most of the stuff we learned there. But I'm not a computer science person by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just a programmer guy that never went to college, basically.
Awesome. So when did you actually first get into crypto and NFTs? Like, how did you sort of onboard through ETH, or was literally Nifty Dudes was the first thing you experimented with?
Nifty Dudes was the first thing I experimented with, which is sort of insane, because I had like back in, I don't know, 2014, I had found Bitcoin through some like YouTube essay of the Silk Road, and I was like, oh, this shit is so cool. You can do a lot of cool shit with that. So I went to my father and was like, I want to buy Bitcoin, for $20 or whatever it was. And he was like, no, you can't. And I was like, but I want to. And he's like, no, you can't. So I gave up that fight, and I rubbed that in his face every now and then. Like, we would have been rich if you just allowed me to buy Bitcoin. But I never actually did anything with it until I found Nifty Dudes early. Was that January 2021 or February, perhaps?
Yeah. Okay. And it was just purely just out of curiosity and experimentation, as opposed to anything philosophical or anything, or influence from external friends or whatever it is, assuming that there's not a lot of people in Sweden that were into
Yeah,
NFT
no,
at the time.
I found this, and then I'm still in school at this point, so I tell all my friends like, "Hey guys, come and claim these moon cats," and they're like, "You're a fucking idiot. It costs $100 to claim those moon cats in gas," and I'm like, "Yeah, but these are gonna be worth a lot." And then a couple of days later, I sell one for like 1 ETH, and they're like, "Holy shit, we should have fucking listened to you." Like, yeah, no shit.
Like the hero back then.
Yeah,
Oh,
not quite, but I like to imagine myself like that.
no, awesome. And then, so for you mentally, I think maybe because you're a lot younger as well, the idea of digital asset ownership and NFTs was relatively easy concept for you to understand. I know, like for older dudes like me, it sort of took me a while to really get my head around it.
Yeah, I think there wasn't a lot of convincing needed to be done for me. I think I have a quote that is like one of my best tweets ever that got quoted by a lot of big crypto influencers. That's like the internet has only existed for 40-ish years, and it's gonna like be a part of humanity for the next thousands of years, so the small portion of 40 years where you couldn't own stuff is going to be seen as the stone age of the internet. It's like so obvious, it just feels weird to us because it hasn't been there for a long time yet. So I always just found it obvious, like why wouldn't you be able to own stuff online? Honestly, there's no reason not to, other than the fact that we haven't been able to before. So, yeah.
Awesome. And then, so then tell me a little bit more about your CryptoPunk journey. Like, so you started off with Nifty Dudes. How did you sort of find your way or find an interest in CryptoPunks?
Yeah, well, like immediately upon joining the space, it was quite obvious that CryptoPunks were like the goal. So I joined a couple of months before the Bored Ape Yacht Club was even launched, and so back then the only thing you could kind of strive for was a CryptoPunk. And back then they were like, I don't know, 10 ETH or something. And so after I'd done my project, which didn't make much, like barely broke even because I spent all of the ETH I had to like pay for artists and stuff. And so then I did another project where I just helped as a programmer, which paid quite well. And then I was like, okay, and I had done some other great trades with like more Mooncats and stuff. And then the punk floor had risen to like 20 ETH, I think. And I was like, holy shit. I just had a feeling that like, okay, these are gonna explode in the coming weeks. And I have like, I don't know, 30 ETH or something. And I'm like, can I justify spending basically all of the money I have on this pixelated dude? And I was like, yeah, I fucking can, because this is going to be worth so much more in just a little while. So I look at the floor, which is like 20 ETH, and I'm like, okay, there are a bunch of cool ones here, but I don't know, it doesn't really, like, I don't really feel it. And then I scroll down a little bit, and at like 26 ETH, I see the CryptoPunk 7332, and I'm like instantly, holy shit, that's a fucking grail. Like, that's one of the coolest punks in the collection. That's worth it, definitely. So I spent almost all of the ETH I have, basically all the money I have, because I have nothing in my bank account, on this CryptoPunk, and I'm instantly like, yeah, this is me. I'm never gonna sell this guy, because this is just what it looked like. And like a week later, the floor is doubled to 40 ETH. So I was very, I don't know what made me feel that feeling of like, this is gonna explode now, but I was very on point with that. And I did basically the same thing with the Bored Ape Yacht Club a couple of months later, where I was like, okay, it's like 15 ETH now. I have a feeling that this is going to explode soon. And that was right before the mutant snapshot as well. So it like...
So just for context as well, when was the actual punk purchase? When in 21?
when was that? July 2021 or June?
Okay. Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Early summer.
Yeah, nice. That was before the huge run up. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's cool. I think because 3AC and a few other funds swept floors and everybody was just going insane, right? And then Gary V swept floors and visa
Yeah, it was right
announcement and a whole
before
bunch of
that.
things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I think I got my knitted cap around the same time as well. But cool, man. So, dude, I'm just looking at your CryptoPunk now. He is a really cool dude. Knitted cap, no bias here, shades, and a goatee.
Yeah.
But what I sort of found really interesting was he's got a smile, but his smile's hidden behind his front beard, right?
Yeah, I'd never kind of thought about that until you said it in the intro. I was like, yeah, that's true. You can't see his mouth because of the beard, so it just looks like a plain straight mouth. So I'd never thought about that, but yeah, I don't know if that's like all of the beards do that, so you can only have a straight smile. I'm guessing it must be like that because it's only the
Well,
3 pixels, right?
it's interesting. I think the more you dig into this kind of stuff, right, you sort of uncover hidden traits like that. Because I'm
Yeah.
assuming there's not a lot of smiles. I think the straight mouth is probably more common than a smile, right?
Probably. What I like found great about him was the fact that it's like a triple orange. So I sometimes call him the triple orange because like obviously the cap is orange, his classic glasses are orange, and he has an orange goatee. And I just find it so aesthetically pleasing. So I was like instantly in love with this guy.
Talk us through that decision process. Like when you were looking for a punk, were you eyeing off different punks, different traits for some time, or did you just?
I kind of knew I wanted a knitted cap. I can't quite remember what made me feel that way. I just think they were like the coolest things. Back then I thought they were the beanies because I'd heard people talk about beanies and I was like, oh yeah, that's a beanie, right? So obviously they're the beanies.
You know what? I did that too. I bought my second punk, a knitted cap, and I went out and sort of said, "Oh, I've got an orange beanie," and then punks were correcting me, going, "Dude, that's not an orange beanie. That's a knitted cap."
Which is so stupid. Like, in what way is a helicopter hat a beanie? I don't know. No, but
Exactly.
I had like I'd spoken a lot with Silly Tuna back when he was still owned his alien with orange knitted cap. He like helped me a lot with my first project. Like he was the only kind of quote unquote influencer on crypto Twitter that like responded to me and wanted to help. I was like one of the first buyers or the first buyer of my project too. So he was like very helpful, and I work with him very closely today. So he's like I like to call him one of my mentors in the space because he's been so cool. And he obviously kind of represented the orange knitted cap. So I think that was also an influence for why I thought they were so cool.
He's still got a knitted cap, right? Silly Tuna.
Yeah, with the VR glasses.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. Cool. So he was one of your influences for knitted cap. You're sort of getting in, helping you select traits and.
Yep, definitely. I don't think he specifically helped me during the buying process, but he was definitely one of the influences. I don't know who else was. I can't quite remember what I was looking at back then, like who I was engaging with. But I always just thought the knitted cap was the coolest of them all. They like look just badass. I don't know.
Mate, I tend to agree, and I think most people listening to the podcast are going to probably hate me because I probably have more knitted cap people on the podcast early on. But
we've become a kind of close knit community, no pun intended.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that was funny. I should have a drum roll.
Yeah, definitely.
It was funny because, like, I think on the Punk's Telegram, some people were reaching out, sort of saying, "Oh, who wants to start up a smoking punks chat?" Because there's these knitted cap communities that are sort of starting to pop up. So I think there's like a bit of a sense that we've got a very strong knitted cap community. Well, I'm not going to lie. I mean, it is pretty cool. If we're moving on, then what are you sort of working on right now? And I guess what are the sort of key things that you're really finding interesting in the space?
Well, as I said, I'm working with Silly Tuna on a couple of things actually. Two of them have been halted because of the bear market, but we're working very intently on a thing called Soulcast, which is very, very cool platform, all kind of centered around customization of NFTs. So you can basically buy a like 3D model of an NFT. It's going to work for 2D too, but the 3D is kind of the main one. So you're going to be able to buy like a 3D model and then also buy things you can customize this 3D model with, and like basically customize it however you want. So it's going to be great both for artists, because they're going to be able to create anything they want, and consumers are going to be able to make that thing look however they want. So it's a very cool, it's going to be a bit like a marketplace, but also a bit like art blocks, stuff like that. And it's very, very advanced, and we're a big team working on it now. We're like close to 20 people, I think. And like it's almost left me in the dust, because it's becoming so complicated that I need help doing the smart contract stuff, which has been what I was brought on to do. But now, like, oh, this is beyond me even. But it's very, very cool, and we're doing very interesting things there. And then I'm also always experimenting with different things. So I've been working on a few cool things that I'm not sure if they're ever going to see the light of day. So I don't want to talk too much about that. But then I'm also working a lot with a bunch of VR things. So I'm working on a project. I can't talk too much about what it actually is, but it's called Crossplay. And a lot of the like VR metaverse things we see now is kind of cringe, Meta and everything they're doing. Yesterday was actually the big Meta keynote where they unveiled everything, and so I pre-ordered the new VR headset and things like that. Just because I think if we get to a point where VR is like better than, if VR can be a replacement for your computer, I think we're gonna start seeing that market explode. So we want to have like apps in place there that can replace the things we have on a regular computer, but in a 3D environment instead.
So I mean, I haven't really got my head into VR and metaverse. I just sort of feel like it's still a little bit too far out, and maybe it's just uncomfortable for prolonged periods of time, right? Because I did buy the Quest, the old Quest now,
Yeah.
and it's fun to play games, etc. And one of my friends, he got me to download this software where basically you could beam, I guess, your desktop from your laptop onto the screen and have multiple screens, and you can almost like work, with multiple sort of screens, large screens, using your VR headset. And he was using it because he was traveling, I think, to Singapore for work, and he's a trader, and so he needed these big screens, and so he was using his VR headset for that. But I sort of found like it was really heavy, and I think I'll probably get like a little bit of motion sickness for a bit of some time for prolonged use. So I sort of struggled to sort of see, I guess, the amount of traction in metaverse and VR and everything else to get everybody sort of plugged in. I mean, but
Yeah, no,
what are you
definitely.
sort of what are you sort of seeing? Like, how do you sort of think this will play out and evolve? Like,
Yeah, I think both points you bring up are very, very valid, and that's something that like gets better and better with each iteration. So, like the first paycheck I ever received, I bought a Oculus Rift with, like the original one, and like they were, of course, frame rate limited based on your computer. The ones that are standalone now aren't. So the original Quest has like pretty old ships by now, and they're like very limiting for people making software for VR. The old Quest is always the bottleneck, and Meta has kind of just announced that they're going to stop supporting it. So a lot of developers are very happy about that. So if you try the Quest 2, I think you'd feel a lot less motion sickness. You're still going to have that front heavy bulky thing. You can buy like better straps for that, but the new one that they didn't like that they officially announced yesterday, even though everybody knew what this looked like, it was like the worst kept secret in VR ever, is a lot better chip that they've developed with Qualcomm, and it also has like much better straps, and it has like pass through, so you can actually see the environment you're in. So I'm basically gonna buy that because I'm moving out soon, and I don't want to have all of my computer screens and my big computer that I have now. So I'm instead, just like you're saying, gonna sit with a bunch of virtual computers, but I'm also now with this new headset gonna be able to see the actual surrounding around me and stuff. And VR is like one part of the metaverse thing you're talking about, because I don't necessarily think a metaverse has to be in VR. I more think that metaverse is about like choosing to live online instead of choosing to live in reality, or at least seeing them as two different kind of lives. So I don't know if you know who Sean Puri is.
No.
No, he's actually a host of My First Million, which is where I heard from NFTs the first time. But he has a very famous quote about the metaverse, which is that it's not actually a place, it's more a point in time. Just like the singularity is when AI surpasses humans, the metaverse point in time is when we care more about our digital lives than we do our physical ones. So, today you can go to the store with sweatpants on, but you never post that on Instagram. So you do care more and more about how you look online rather than how you look in the physical life. And I think that when that comes to a point where we kind of live a separate life online with like immersive, engaging worlds you can step into in different ways. It doesn't necessarily have to be in VR, but that's, of course, as immersive as it gets. So yeah, I think that's a very interesting discussion too, like where we are going with the metaverse. Is it just going to be one place? Is it going to be owned by Meta? What part does NFTs have in that?
Totally. And look, I jumped on LinkedIn sometimes, and I just sort of have a look at I guess some of the posts are there, and everybody's just shilling metaverse at the top of their lungs, right? Digital fashion, metaverse, etc., etc., etc. I right now I sort of feel like it's probably overcooked, and you're right. I probably agree with you that metaverse doesn't necessarily need to be in 3D VR. I mean, you could probably argue that Twitter, Discord is our existing sort of metaverse, right? We're sort of already engaging, sort of as an early primitive, but yeah, I sort of feel like this is probably going to come out a little bit negative, but I sort of feel like Sandbox Decentraland. I think the biggest trouble is getting content and users in there to use it.
Yeah, it's boring. It's boring as hell.
Exactly. And so I just don't see how you would scale that for the masses with VR headsets and going in there and hanging out if you don't have obviously the comfortable equipment where you can spend prolonged hours in there, and two, the relevant communities and networks and content to hang out in there. And so I think that for me it just feels like it's 5-10 years away.
No, and I agree. I think that timeline is very realistic. And I think you mentioned one word there that I'm like focusing on, and that's content, and especially discoverability of content. Like you say, Discord and Twitter is our metaverses, and they're filled with content. You can never look at all the content in Twitter, but that's not the case in Sandbox and Decentraland. So until they have a way of generating content quickly and people can consume that content quickly, I don't think they're going to be explosive metaverses. So that's what I'm focusing on. And yeah, those are the main things I'm excited about in the space.
No, it's exciting, man. And then just going back to Soulcast, I've just got the website up as well. Like you sort of said that it was sort of 3D models. Like, how does this sort of work? Like, what's the like what sort of 3D models, and what would be the use cases behind some of the things that you're building in Soulcast?
Well, Soulcast is kind of just supposed to be another kind of standard for NFTs. So we're developing our own contract that's still based on the ERC 721 contract, but like are basically a few different kinds of NFTs. There are the cores, and then there are the packs, and the packs contain basically mods that you can put on the cores. So a core can be like a 3D model that's just plain, so it's like a 3D model of a sneaker or whatever. And then in the pack, you have like different color variations you can put on this shoe, or like stickers or little tags you can hang on them, so that you can customize them however. And then this NFT can be used for whatever you want. So it can be a wearable inside of Decentraland, but we just provide the platform for the customization of this. So it's just a new standard for how you can release an NFT that's customizable without having to write a bunch of code for that, because it's a very complicated process, especially if you want to do it right. So we're basically trying to create a new sort of NFT that's focusing on customizability, so that the owner of the NFT can really personalize it and make it look however they want.
That's cool. And is there any interoperability, or is it just focused on ETH right now?
We've discussed the possibility of doing stuff cross-chain, but now it's definitely mostly on ETH.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. And then besides that, I mean, what are you sort of collecting these days? I've got your wallet up. Let's have a look at what's in the bag. You've got some Bored Apes and kennel clubs and other side. But just throwing out the question for you, like, what do you collect, and I guess why do you collect?
Yeah, I'm very big on Yuga Labs. All of the Yuga Lab stuff. I hope they don't get boned by the SEC now. Hopefully, but yeah. So I try to own everything Yuga Labs puts out, and I'm very big on other side as well. So I try to look for the hidden gems in the other deals and stuff like that. But other than that, I'm always trying to collect like the stuff that's doing the new things that we haven't
Just
seen before.
just on that, what sort of gems are you looking for in the other side band?
Right now, I think the most undervalued things are tier 5s and artifacts. Like they're 10% above the overall floor, which I think is insane. So I'm trying to collect that, and then also trying to decode the stuff they have in their videos and things. So like in the new video they put out, they had a big tree that took up like 6 seconds of the video. So I immediately found which other deed had that tree, and I had to buy that, even though it was pretty expensive and stuff. So I'm
Nice.
always trying to like be ahead of the curve on things like that. No idea if that tree was just a random picture they decided to use, of course, but I'm willing to take the risk that it's going to be super important in the other side.
It's super fascinating what's happening right now in the space. Obviously, with this regulatory FUD that's coming in, and I don't know how serious that's going to be. But I don't know if you've been to the other side Twitter account lately, but it looks like it's been deleted or
Hacked.
removed. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, they removed the profile picture somehow, which I
yeah,
didn't even know you could do. Uh,
yeah,
but they haven't posted anything, which I think is the weird part. Like if I
yeah.
hacked the other side Twitter, I'd try to scam some people with it. Obviously, I'd never do either of those things, but but
Exactly.
why hack it if you're just gonna put it offline? It doesn't make any sense to me. Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't get it. Yeah,
yeah,
hopefully that doesn't crash everything too hard.
yeah.
We're praying.
Yeah, you're sort of saying that you're bullish on Yuga and everything they sort of do.
Yeah.
In your mind, why is that? Like, what do you sort of see in Yuga?
Well, I think NFTs have kind of stepped away from just being things you collect to kind of being a culture thing, and I think nobody does culture better than Yuga Labs. Like they 100% understand that, and everything they do is like only to bring forward the culture they're trying to create, basically.
Mm, mm,
And they're also the forefront of the NFT space, as kind of this SEC thing proves. They don't pick any random NFT collection, it's the biggest one. So I just think if NFTs are going to be a part of the future, I think Yuga is going to be a big company. And since I believe in NFTs, I believe in Yuga. Basically, it's not like super due diligent things like that. I just think they're competent people behind it. I've listened to like most of their interviews and stuff, and I'm like, yeah, I agree with everything they say. So
No, I can respect that answer and that view as well, right? I think when you said that they understand culture, I get that feeling that they really do understand that. Um, Even though they did buy CryptoPunks, and I think when you've got a company or a corporate that's involved with a collection, um, I guess the idea of for profit has negative connotations for a community like CryptoPunks, right?
yeah,
Um, but I think they've done quite well in terms of sitting back, listening to the community, appointing a brand lead like Noah to it, and sort of going slow. So I think they're sort of reading it, and they haven't gone into put us on cheesy lunch boxes or made Disney cartoons out of us just yet. So hopefully they'll continue to do that. But did you see that they're looking to revamp the CryptoPunks website as well?
yes, I did. I didn't look that far into it. I saw it on the newsletter, and I was like, oh, that sounds good, because like I think I think their motivation for it was that it's kind of been left in the dust compared to what Web3 websites look like now, which I think is fair, but also it has that like rustic feel that I think a lot of us appreciate. So I haven't seen much of the reactions. I'm guessing that's very divisive. Uh,
Yeah,
but
yeah. Look,
I'm also kind of thinking it's necessary to bring it into the future. Uh, but yeah, I don't have too many opinions on that. I think like oftentimes when a company wants to update how everything looks, people are gonna hate it until they sort of love it. So usually you don't know until after it's done.
no, I'm sort of indifferent at the moment, just sort of sitting back and watching what they sort of do. But yeah, I'm sort of in two minds about it. One is it's like it's part of the punk's history and the cultural relic, and I think the way that they've communicated as a restoration project was actually quite a nice touch. um,
Yeah, I think that's smart,
but
definitely.
and then, are you sort of eyeing off any collections in this bear market at the moment? Are you looking for an entry into any other projects outside of the ones that you already have?
No, I'm actually probably gonna sell a bunch of the stuff I have now. I'm looking to buy an apartment, so I'm
Makes
but
sense.
as a degen's always gonna degen, so I still buy a lot of things, even though I know I'm gonna have to sell them soon because I'm just not smart. But I'm pretty big on. I know storytelling NFTs have been like a meme lately, but I do think that's kind of the trend where we're headed right now. I think nobody does story better than cyber brokers, so I'm a big fan of them. I
Mm.
also work closely with a guy called Memnock or Chris Chapman, who's a part of cyber brokers, and that team is just like very professional and stuff. So I think they're gonna do very well for like. I think they're underpriced right now, so I've been looking to pick up some more of those. Haven't done that yet though. Uh, but otherwise, no. I think a lot of the stuff that comes out now is just like temporary hype, and then they're gonna be worth 1 ETH forever. And we're seeing a
Absolutely.
lot of even the people who are like pretending to innovate, doing new stuff, are kind of just falling back on the same old tried and tested things. And
Playbook.
then
Mm.
why is that going to be worth more than anything that
Mm.
tried and tested it first? So in this bear market, no, I don't think there are too many hidden gems, to be fair.
Yeah.
But check out cyber brokers, definitely.
Yeah, that's cool. No, I've got a cyber broker. I went to the cyber broker event in New York for NFT
Oh,
NYC.
I'm so jealous. I couldn't go because I didn't get my passport in time. The
Damn.
passport printer in Sweden, or in the whole Scandinavia,
Yeah.
broke, so nobody could get their passport. So I went and did my interview to get a passport, and I got it 2 months later, which was a week after I was supposed to go to New York. So I had the tickets and the hotel and everything,
Oh
didn't get
man, that
a
sucks.
cent back.
I feel for
uh,
you.
yeah, that
No,
was horrible.
it was a good event. I mean, Josie got to meet Josie for a little bit and some of the guys in there, but it was a fun event. Yeah, but maybe I can sort of catch you there next year in New York.
Definitely. Third time's the charm. I couldn't go the first time either because of COVID. So I bought tickets for the event twice. Haven't been able to go yet.
Damn. And then when you reflect back on your NFT career to date, like what's your best win or best moment that you've had?
Oof. I'm guessing like financially, it's either the Punk or the Bored Ape, most likely.
Yeah, huge.
But also like finding those moon cats, what felt really nice. Also because I could just kind of dunk on my friends who were saying I'm an idiot.
Okay.
But also releasing my first project was like so crazy, and seeing people interact with something you've created is like a feeling like no other almost.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I don't know if I have any like
No,
specific moment.
those are some pretty big wins along the way, right? So
Yeah.
definitely launching your own project and obviously just holding on to an ape during that bull run was crazy. Um,
Yeah,
any
I should have sold though.
I
Looking
mean,
back, but
hindsight's always easier, right? But I mean,
yeah,
just
hindsight's
given so
2020.
much, it's just hard to. I mean, you're still up, right? So it's not like you're
Yeah,
underwater.
and that's always how I think. Like, okay, I started with what 1,500. I'm
Yeah,
past that, so like if I'm down, even down 50%, I'm still
man, and you're
up.
20, man.
Yeah,
You've got the rest of your golden years ahead of you, mate. So
yeah. I really don't contemplate
yeah,
on like losses too much. I sleep great at night, so I don't care really.
good. So you don't have many good losses, and
Yeah.
good. And then, do you have any sort of big lessons or insights in NFTs that you've uncovered over the last couple of years?
Um. Hmm. Well, I like I said before, I think we've kind of grown to it only being about culture, and I think culture is also very easy to fake. So like how we saw a lot of the engagement farming for whitelists kind of things kind of tricked a lot of people into feeling like, oh, this is what culture is. So I think if you really want to understand culture, you actually have to like see past the hype, which is very hard. So I think the biggest one is almost patience. Like don't FOMO, which feels obvious, but I bought both of my biggest wins. I bought very very expensive because I had seen them succeed multiple times before, and of course I had the luxury to be able to buy them when they were expensive. But like if you only buy 15 projects at 1 ETH, you're not going to be able to buy the one project at 15 ETH. And I think that one is often going to do better,
Yeah,
I'd say.
cool. And then, do you have a favorite punk personality in the space that you look up to? And I think you mentioned Silly Tuna before.
Yeah. Silly Tuna and Memnock are two people I work with. Both of them are part of Soulcast. They're like the founders of Soulcast. Uh, look up
Is
to them a
is
lot.
he Numnock? Is he a punk?
Memnock is a punk as well.
Okay.
He's not a knitted cap though.
Okay.
He's like a goat in the space as well. He's like ex Disney, ex Club Penguin,
How do you spell his
ex
handle?
Decentraland. What?
How do you spell his handle on Twitter?
Memnock with a 3, so M3N. No, M3MNOCH. And his real name is Chris.
Cool.
So I kind of view them as my mentors. They're both goats. But then I also love 6529. I think he has like one of the best outlooks on the space where it's like, okay, we need to onboard people. How do we do that? Oh, through memes. And how do we like get people's attention? Oh, through content. I think he has a like great view of how to build this space up from the ground. So I really respect him for that, where it's not like, oh, uh, make a bunch of money, but actually, okay, we need to build this out almost as a business, and how do we do that? I
Yeah.
think he's great for the space in that sense.
Amazing. I've just just given him a follow, and I'll look into him. I'm not a little bit more.
Yeah, he's smart.
And then, how would you describe punk culture in a few words for you?
Um, I kind of think it's almost, if you were to compare them to other projects, I think punks are much more almost chill than other. Like if you compare them to Bored Apes, they're not as loud. They kind of know their own worth, so then they don't have to flaunt it. They're like cool, basically. I know Joshua had said iconic, and I think that's one of the best words as well to describe it. Yeah, I'd say like laid back almost. We don't have to prove anything. So yeah.
No, I get what you mean, but just another side question then, because I know you've got a Bored Ape as well. Is that well, won't put the answer in your own mouth, but so why have you chosen, I guess, of all the projects that you've got access to, why have you chosen, I guess, a CryptoPunk to represent you and your identity in Web3?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it's something that I ask myself sometimes. But I feel like the punk kind of shows you that like I know what I'm doing, whereas a Bored Ape is like I'm a cool person basically. So since I'm trying to represent myself as like a developer who knows a lot about the space, I think the punk more represents that authenticity, or like authority rather, authority on what I'm saying. Like I know what I'm saying because I own a punk. I feel like that's kind of what the punk represents, whereas the Bored Ape is more, okay, I'm a celebrity in the space in a different way.
Awesome. I'm going to quote this and make sure it's tweeted. Let's see how much hate mail you get for the Bored Apes.
Yeah, who knows? But I think Bored Apes are great too. I've had my Bored Ape as my profile picture briefly in the past, and I often get more engagement with it. So
Absolutely.
But it's all about the different vibes you're trying to put out. If I were trying to garner up hype for a project or like be as famous as possible, I'd probably use my Bored Ape. But since I'm trying to tweet like informational things, like technical things, since I'm a technical person, I think the CryptoPunk more represents that I have authority on what I'm speaking on, kind of. That's the idea I have in my head, at least.
No, I'm with you, and couldn't agree more. And it's hard to describe them in words, right? What's going on, or the vibe of the collections. But I think you've described it quite well.
Thank you.
And if you could pass on a message to the next owner of your punk, what would you say to them?
Well, I don't think I'm going to sell it for starters, of course, but hypothetically, if I were to do that, I'd probably say like respect him, kind of. Like don't represent something bad using this punk, kind of. I think when you're part of a close knit community, once again, no pun intended, as punks are, there's only 10,000 of them. Whatever you do, your actions will kind of reflect on all of us, right? So if you're a punk, especially if you own my punk, don't do something to kind of put dirt on the space overall. Like NFTs has enough hate as it is. We shouldn't do things that's gonna make it worse, kind of.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I guess just to close out, man, like, how can people find you? And any sort of closing comments on your side?
Yeah, I'm Cobble on Twitter, just at Cobble, like the stone. That's the best way to find me. If you DM me something other than hi, like an actual introduction, I'm definitely going to respond. I check all my DMs. So whatever you want to talk about, hit me up. And yeah, if you want to find someone fun to talk to about cool tech and the future of NFTs, I'm one of the guys, I think.
Awesome. Cobble, this has been super fun, man, and I just think it's really great that we get to connect just through owning part of the same collection. You being halfway around the world in Sweden, and me being in Hong Kong, and not me meeting you prior to this call. I think it's kind of nice just to automatically connect like that, right? So thank you for spending your time to come on the show.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is a great initiative. It's a lot of fun seeing what all the different punks are up to, right? So thank you for having me, and thank you for hosting.
Awesome. And and that's it for PunkCast for today. And yeah, we'll wrap it up and see you next time. See you guys.